What is up, Guardians? Welcome to Schwille Gaming, where you can stay up to date with Destiny content. Yesterday, Bungie released a full list of all of next season's artifact mods, and if you're unfamiliar with how artifact mods work, they contain mods for the current season's weapons that can deal with champions, as well as a handful of mods that improve your subclass performance, depending on which you choose. So today, we'll talk about next season's artifact mods, which by the way begins this coming Tuesday at Reset. Let's get into it. Alright guys, I'm just going to jump right into it, starting with our first column being our champion mods. First up we have anti-barrier auto rifles. Pretty straightforward, auto rifles will be able to stun barrier champions. We've actually had this for all of Season of the Deep, but I'm cool with that as Rufus' Fury has been my go-to primary weapon since the release of Root of Nightmares. Up next we have piercing bowstring, and this is cool because I believe the last time bows were good for barrier champions was Season of the Lost. And recently we had overload bows, but not barrier, so that will be very interesting. Moving on, we have unstoppable scout rifles, so scouts will stun unstoppable champions. Next we have overload hand cannons, and usually hand cannons get unstops, but it'll be very cool to see how they play out with overloads next season, especially with the buff they're receiving. And our last perk in the first column is unstoppable fusion rifles. Again, another perk we haven't had since Season of the Lost. And I'm personally pretty stoked for this one because I love fusion rifles. I remember in Season of the Lost, a lot of us were running 1000 Voices and absolutely melting unstoppable champions, and not to mention Vex Mythoclast will be pretty awesome here too. The first perk in the second column is an Arc and Strand Siphon combo. Siphon perks allow us to generate orbs on weapon kills matching that element. Before, you could select a Siphon for a single element, but now we'll be able to get the benefit for two elements depending on which you choose. The next mod in this column is a Solar and Strand Siphon combo. Again, same thing here. So it looks like Strand will be pushed in each of these perks in addition to another element, and you can see this with the next perk being a Void and Strand Siphon combo. Next up we have an Origin perk Specialization, which greatly improves the benefits of weapons with the Origin traits Head Rush, Nanotech Tracer Rockets, Unsated Hunger, as well as whatever next season's Origin trait will be. Moving on, we have Diviner's Discount, and this perk will discount the cost to equip all scavenger mods, which give you additional ammo when picking up a brick. So if you like to run scavengers, this will free up some space for your other leg armor mods. Moving on to the third column of our seasonal artifact mods, we have Thanatotic Tangles. With this perk, your strand weapon final blows have a chance to generate a tangle. This could actually be pretty good. For example, for Warlocks, if you're looking to generate Threadlings and you're running Swarmers, whenever you shoot or throw a tangle, you generate Threadlings. So the more tangles you create, the more Threadlings you create. And I believe Threadlings are getting a buff next season. Don't quote me on that, but if they do, this could actually be pretty good. The next perk we have here is Origin Specialization 2. And this is going to make your weapons with Head Rush, Nanotech Tracer Rockets, Unsated Hunger, as well as next season's Origin trait weapons overcharged whenever that modifier is active. This could be especially good for something like the Circular Logic Machine Gun, and it could really boost that heavy weapon DPS here. The next three perks here are going to be something different we haven't seen before, and these are what appears going to be the focus of next season's artifact mods. First up, we have Void Elemental Orbs, and this says while using a Void subclass, your Void weapon final blows have a chance to generate a Void Orb that when thrown not only causes a Void explosion, but also makes enemies volatile. Now I'm going to list the other two perks here, then go back and talk about these Elemental Orbs. We also have Arc Elemental Orbs, which do the same thing as the Void Orbs, but obviously will cause an arc explosion and jolt targets. And we also have Solar Elemental Orbs, which again do the same thing, but cause a solar explosion and scorch targets. So the concept of these orbs is actually really cool. You're going to create these orbs from weapons matching your subclass on kills, and when you pick them up and throw them, they cause an explosion corresponding to your subclass, and also either jolt, scorch, or make enemies volatile. I could see this actually being pretty good, where if you're generating enough of these orbs, you're going to be painting the battlefield in the element of your choice. It sounds awesome, but the only problem I'm seeing with this is if you're running something like Grandmasters, you'll have to leave cover to pick up your orbs, which can be pretty dangerous sometimes. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see on how they play out next week and what kind of builds players make. There's a lot of ways to stay alive, so who knows, maybe Elemental Orbs will be cracked. Alright, now moving on to the fourth column, our first perk is Overload Machine Guns, and currently Thunderlord is capable of stunning overloads without needing a perk, but this could be useful if you like running machine guns in any of your other builds. For example, Commemoration is pretty good, and it's a Void machine gun. Circular Logic is also a great machine gun and a strand, so now you'll be able to get overload capabilities for your different machine gun builds. The next perk in this column is Elemental Fury, and this is going to cause stun champions to take bonus damage from your abilities and elemental orbs. Again, it looks like Bungie will really be pushing these elemental orbs, and if you're generating enough of them, you may be able to do some pretty good damage to champions. Next up, we have Communal Pickups, and this says when an ally destroys or picks up your Tangle or Elemental Orb, the Tangle cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds, and you gain bonus damage with weapons matching your subclass for 10 seconds. So getting that cooldown reduced can work well. Again, for like Warlocks using Threadling builds, if you're running Swarmers, when you destroy a Tangle, you generate Threadlings. If your Tangle cooldown is reduced, then you can generate them more quickly. Unfortunately though, an ally has to pick up or destroy your Tangle for this to work, so you actually won't be getting Threadlings out of this, but the damage increase will make teamwork more worth it. The next perk here is Refreshing Pickups, where picking up a Tangle or an Orb grants energy to your least powered ability. To me, this is kind of a mid perk at best, since we already have tons of ways to generate ability energy. The last perk in this column is Semi-Auto Striker. If you have fewer than 2 stacks of armor charge, rapid precision shots with snipers, bows, and scout rifles will generate an armor charge. We have a lot of armor charge mods, and I could see this being very good for something like surges. Especially if you're using one of these weapon types with the corresponding element to your surges, you'll be able to keep that surge active longer and get that damage boost. This could be pretty good for survivability mods too, like Emergency Reinforcement for example. Moving on to the last column, we have Monochromatic Maestro. This says that dealing elemental damage increases matching weapon damage, and dealing elemental weapon damage increases matching ability damage. The bonus granted for this is 10% for 5 seconds. Since most of us already know to use weapons matching our subclass, this perk is a no-brainer. With matching subclass and weapons, you'll pretty much always have a damage bonus. So this will actually be pretty good. Next up we have Rapid Fire Ranger, where rapid long-range precision shots weaken the target. Are we talking Void weaken here, or just in general weaken? Either way, this should be pretty useful against annoying adds when trying to clear a room. The next perk we have is Elemental Embrace. This says that subclass elemental buffs grant you bonus recovery and resistance against combatant attacks of matching element type. More survivability, so I love to see it. Next we have Elemental Munitions. Combatant final blows with Tangles or Elemental Orbs have a chance to drop special or heavy ammo. I'm really glad we're getting another method of generating ammo here. This is always useful and makes getting through high-end content a little easier. And our last perk is Frenzied Stacks, where your armor charge grants bonus damage to your thrown Tangles or Orbs, and armor charge now decays over time. With this whole elemental orb thing being so pushed, this perk actually helps out a lot, and I believe you can hold up to 5 armor charges at a time. So there's a mod you can use to increase the amount of charges you can hold. So if you have max armor charges, I could see orbs and tangles being able to deal some pretty chunky damage. So there we have it on all of next season's artifact mods. It looks like using elemental orbs for damage and perks is going to be the focus. It's a new thing for sure, since the artifacts is usually focused on improving certain subclass performance, but I suppose we'll just have to wait and see how good elemental orbs will be. If you guys enjoyed the video or found it useful, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe for more awesome Destiny content. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.